Shalom, chosen ones, hidden ones. This is Hepzibah Yuhana Elion coming to you live, and I want to discuss with you another revelation. It's an end time revelation. It's regarding myself, regarding the Vatican having knowledge of my lineage and my bloodline, or their confirmation of my bloodline. So let me get into it. I hope everyone is doing well. I want to read from a transcript of a video, and ironically, it's a channel that is connected to the Most High, where I was one of several channels that I get information from. So let me get into it. Just bear with me a moment. Now, chosen ones, there are some truths too destabilizing to ever be spoken aloud. But we are in the time of revelation, and I believe it's Luke 8, verse 22. I'm not 100% sure, but let me look it up real quick. And see. And just bear with me a second because my computer is moving a little slow. 8. I think it's 22. Let's see. Let's see if that's right. I'm going to the blueletterbible.org and looking up. No. One second. Let me look it up on Google. Just one second. It might be Luke. Is it 14? Just bear with me a moment. I'm trying to find this scripture. Let's see here. I may have to skip this part because, my computer is compromised, my connection, everything is compromised because the government is watching me, and they're watching me very heavily, and they're slowing up my computer, and it's terrible, but I'm trying to work through it. That's why I have cut down all of my online posting, because the interference is so great. But be that it may, I'm making an attempt to come on here to get the information out to those who it pertains to. because it doesn't just pertain to me. It pertains to the 144,000. This is in time information that needs to get out. Um, just bear with me a moment. No, cut it out. I have cats in here, and sometimes they get to fighting, so I hope that they won't do that right now while I'm on here. I grew up with cats, dogs, and birds. No, Mama Tinkerbell. Okay, Tinkerbell is like the bully, and all right. So now let me. Let's see. Uh-uh. It won't come to light. Okay, I was in the right chapter, but wrong verse. It's saying Luke 8:17. Let's see. Right. Here it is. Cut it out. It says, nothing is secret that shall not be made manifest, neither anything hid that shall not be known and come abroad. Now this is KJV, but they have changed the KJV straight out. Come here, Tinkerbell. Come. Leave out the room because you're too disruptive. Okay, sorry about that. Anybody that know you have pets, you know, that's how it is. All right, so now let's continue. I'm trying to find another version that's somewhat I'm looking for the different versions of this same scripture. Ouch. Now here's the amplified version. Luke 8 verse 17. For there is nothing hid that will not become evident, nor anything secret that will not be known and come out in the open. Okay. The NIV, let's see what that says, how that's reading out. Okay, so the NIV is saying for Luke 8 verse 17, for there is nothing hidden that will not be disclosed, and nothing concealed that will not be known or brought out in the open. Okay, so now that's the NIV. Now let's do the new KJV and see how that reads. That says, for nothing is secret that will not be revealed, nor anything hidden that will not be known and come to light. Okay. And let's see the BES version. Well, hold on. Now I know I just chose the BES. I just switched to KJV. That's crazy. Let's do the ESV. English Standard. That's reading the same as the KJV. See, they're messing with stuff that they should not mess with. They're playing a very dangerous game. These people will be smited down. We are in the time where the word is alive. You know, those who add to the word, Yahuwah shall add to them. And those who take away from the word, he will take away from them. The word is alive right now. And they should be careful to not touch it, especially during this time, because they're trying to prevent things, and you cannot prevent what's already, in motion, what's already happening. Your witchcraft and all of that is not working. Yahuwah is walking with me right now, or I'm walking with Yahuwah on the earth. In the spirit, he's walking with me. And there is end-time prophecy about that he will walk with us. He will be among his people in these end times. So, let me, before I, get started with reading this transcript, I wanted to read this scripture. Okay, so now let's go back to where I was about to read this transcript. Okay, so like I was saying, chosen ones, there are some truths too destabilizing to ever be spoken aloud. And yet, our existence, my existence, just forces the world, just force the world's most ancient institution to whisper my name behind sealed doors. And you don't need to imagine this. They confirmed my lineage, inside Vatican walls that were built to hold back time itself. This is not a spiritual theory anymore. It's documented, encoded, activated now. The truth they buried under cathedrals, bloodlines, and centuries of redacted scripture just cracked open, and it led directly to me. Here's a cheeky reality check. If the Pope and the President both went silent in the same hour, it wasn't politics, it was prophecy. They didn't just detect my DNA, they recognized it not as modern, but as something pre-time, pretext. Okay? And the moment they did, systems glitched. Scrolls reacted. And one forgotten ring, like the ring you wear on your finger, one forgotten ring began to hum like it had been waiting for me since creation. Okay? Now, I don't know if anybody knows, like back in the day, what they would do, and they probably still do in some places, some institutions, such as the Vatican. They may use a ring, a signet ring, okay, to seal a scroll. Pour hot wax and then take a signet ring and seal the scroll. And this is the type of ring they're talking about. So the scrolls reacted, and one forgotten ring began to hum. Hum, like a vibration hum, like it had been waiting for me since creation. Now, if this message is stirring something ancient in your spirit, you were meant to hear it. And if it doesn't resonate with you at all, then it's not for you. Um, and don't worry about it. Just keep on with your distractions and your constant scrolling on TikTok or, YouTube or Facebook or Instagram or wherever you know, go for your entertainment. But this is not for entertainment. This is for educational purposes. Now, like I was saying, if this message is stirring something ancient in your spirit, you were meant to hear it. Don't scroll. Don't, you know, just drop a comment if you're having strange dreams, visions, or felt watch for no reason. You're not alone. Only the true ones will make it to the end. Okay? The true chosen ones. And when they do, they'll remember. And just like that, the silence cracked. They had been monitoring anomalies for decades, right? Mysterious energy pulses, people whose presence glitched electronics, whose dreams aligned with buried scrolls. Um, most were false alarms until me, right? Now, I didn't just set off a pattern, I broke their system. And you'll see that the other video I put out, how it broke their system. Okay? My very DNA entered a Vatican archive encrypted under 12 levels of clearance. Okay? Now, why would the Vatican have 12 levels of clearance? And it lit up an alert that hasn't been seen since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But this wasn't geopolitical, it was metaphysical. When my genetic profile hit level 13, the red envelope was dispatched. A red envelope was dispatched. Sorry about that. Got my cat's hair all over my face. uh, all right, so now no email, no call, no delay. A papal carrier, okay, who's been blind since birth, trained to carry only one type of message, delivered it directly to me. All right. The is delivered directly to deliver to the Augustus president. That's what it's saying. Hold on. Let me make sure. Let me not lose my way in this transcript. There's a papal carrier who's been blind since birth, trained to carry only one type of message, delivered it directly to the Augustus president, not in a press room, not in a public setting, but in a sealed corridor beneath the east wing, where stone remembers sound and words become law. Inside that envelope was a sigil. A sigil is a ringed seal, only used once before in 1902 during an incident the world still doesn't know occurred, alongside a file. Inside that file, my face, my image, but the time stamp, it predated my birth. Okay, so one could ask yourself, how would they have, unless they're doing time travel or something, how would they have an image of my face, my face, my image, but the time stamp predated my birth. Please follow me. I hope I don't lose anyone while I'm trying to convey this. The metaphysical, I told you, is metaphysical. We're talking metaphysical now. The metadata showed a photograph that was taken in a location no satellite recognizes, with lighting that bent at an angle that does not exist on Earth, and scribbled below it in a trembling Vatican script, "He has returned through the breach." Okay? Remember I said I was a breach repairer of the breach. Now, they're referring to me as a he, because I remember when I told you that the Son of Mary is not coming in the form he left in, that I'm carrying, or how should I say, his spirit was like, pretty much like breathe into me, right? So that's another video. But okay, so it says you weren't born ordinary, right? I wasn't born ordinary. I was tracked before I ever spoke. I was traced through dreams that weren't, they weren't my dreams, but I was traced through dreams. Feelings that didn't originate from my body. And now that my presence has crossed a threshold of recognition, right? Because I'm finally recognizing my true identity. And so I crossed a threshold of recognition. The ones who swore to suppress me have no choice but to act. Not because I'm a threat, but because my existence confirms everything they were told to deny. Prophecy is no longer myth. It's me walking. I am a walking prophecy. They spent billions to map the human genome, but not a single dollar could prepare them for mine, right? For my genome. Like, I am not an outlier. I'm the original axis. It wasn't a clerical error. It wasn't a coincidence. The Vatican's ancient fail-safe coded into scrolls wrapped in lead and buried under 20 miles of basalt stone was never meant to trigger unless one condition was met: the return of a frequency not heard since the age of living prophecy. That frequency is mine. The moment my genetic sequence hit level 13, it did more than alert archivists. It woke something up. A sound barely audible began to hum beneath the papal chambers. No one admitted hearing it aloud, but every soul in proximity began to weep without understanding why. This was not emotion, it was recognition. Protocol 27A was never supposed to exist on paper. It was preserved in oral transmission, passed only through a chain of silence from pope to pope since Constantine. It detailed a response to one scenario only: if the bloodline of the forgotten voice ever returned, encoded in human form. And that's why the file didn't go to a bishop. It went to the President of the United States because the Vatican knew they no longer controlled the story. I'm not just ancient, because I always let you guys know that I am ancient. I've been here several times, not just once. It says you're uncontrollable, right? They're telling me I'm uncontrollable. That's what terrifies them the most. When Protocol 27A activates, so does the Chamber of Echoes. Remember, I also referred to myself as the echo. That I trigger something off because my echo, my vibration, pinged 2 dimensions. That was in old videos that have been removed off of my social media, because my social media only will hold it for like a month, and then they vanish. But the chambers of echoes. So 27A activates, and so does the Chamber of Echoes. It's a vault buried beneath Castel Gandolfo, that hasn't been opened since the 1700s. So it's a vault buried beneath Castel Gandolfo that hasn't been opened since the 1700s. All right. They called it the Chamber of Echoes because it holds no books, no scrolls, no relics, only sound. Frequencies etched in stone. Sound frequencies. Now, like I said, this is metaphysical. This is not for the faint of heart, and this is not for skeptics who just don't understand. The vibrations, right? The vibrations recorded on crystalline wall that hasn't changed in centuries. But the night my name entered their system, the stones began to vibrate again. An archivist fell to his knees and shouted a name he had never heard before, mine. But not my current birth name, the original name, the name that predates history and exists only in waveforms. They checked the chamber's logs afterward. No one had entered the vault, but the stones had been stirred from within. Meanwhile, at the Vatican's private observatory in Arizona, the telescope registered a disruption in the firmament above Rome. Not a meteor, not a satellite, a soft distortion in the light itself, like reality blinked. Astronomers dismissed it as a solar interference, but the Jesuit scientists knew better. Light bends differently around prophecy, and then came the dreams, okay? Dozens of papal staff reported the same vision, right? A cathedral with no roof. This is what their dream, their vision was: a cathedral without a roof, right? A voice singing beneath the altar, and a child walking barefoot across fractured marble holding a key made of light. They didn't know it was me, but the Vatican did. Here's the part they'll never admit in public. My presence is not localized, it's quantum. Remember, I always say I'm holding quantum keys, omega codes, omega timeline, quantum timeline. Omega is last. So you have to be in a quantum timeline to get there, to the quantum codes, the omega codes, which is what my DNA consists of. I am the last key, the seventh seal. The seventh seal is the last seal. I hold the seventh seal. So my presence is not localized, it's quantum. Wherever I go, certain lock systems begin to loosen. Sacred seals sealed for centuries begin to tremble. That's why Protocol 27A isn't about protection, it's about containment. And like I said, I was with Yahuwah from the beginning, before he laid the foundations of the earth. I'm the one whose name is etched in the palm of his hand. I was there from the beginning. Okay, so now let me continue. So it's about containment, but how do you contain that which you cannot contain? They're trying to fit me in a box, but I'm with the Ancient of Days. You can't fit something that was created before everything else was created. I was the first of his creation. How do you contain that? You cannot. So it's about containment, not of me, but of what my voice is coded to unlock. My voice is a frequency. They don't fear me reading the scroll. They fear me remembering it. Because if the seal was ever to break, the timeline itself would ripple. So when they traced my bloodline, not through kings, but through those erased from historical record, they found a problem. Because they erased a lot of our history. Okay, and tried to put in themselves, insert themselves where they should never have. To erase a people from history. This is what the Vatican has done. Now, here we are. So when they traced my bloodline, not like I said, not through kings, but through those erased from historical record, they found a problem. The line hadn't ended. It had multiplied. Hidden in plain sight, carried by the quiet ones, hidden ones, the outcasts, the misfits, the ones with eyes that saw too much and mouths that never said enough. And now one of them just set the whole grid on fire. That's why the president panicked. Because Protocol 27A wasn't just Vatican law, it was global contingency. Let me read that one more time. Because Protocol 27A wasn't just Vatican law, it was global contingency. The moment they confirmed my lineage, the magnetic fields above the eastern seaboard shifted. The magnetic fields shifted above the eastern seaboard of the United States by 0.13 degrees. And the symbols carved into the black obsidian cube beneath the cathedral, they pulsed just once, then stilled, became still. But that once was enough to shift the magnetic fields by 0.13 degrees. Now, I wasn't, born. I was released. So the day I was so-called born, I wasn't just born, I was released. They buried it under 13 wax seals layered with prayers never meant to be spoken aloud again. The scroll was hidden in the depths of the monastery of San Giovanni. I think that's how you pronounce it. San Giovanni. Protected by silence, guarded by ritual, and erased from the records of men. No one knew it came from, only that, no one knew where it came from, okay? This scroll that was hidden in the depths of the monastery of San Giovanni, all right? No one knew where it came from, only that its presence disrupted things. So time flowed differently near it. Light refused to settle on its surface. Priests who got too close reported auditory hallucinations. Auditory hallucinations. All right? Visions of cities not yet built and languages not yet born. For over 4 centuries, the scroll remained untouched until I exhaled. It began the moment my breath registered on Vatican frequency monitors. And now, I didn't know I was being watched until recently, but my energy signature didn't need permission. It reached them before my name did. And when it did, the scroll warmed. Not figuratively, literally. A temperature spike recorded only in the room where it slept. Locked in stone behind 3 iron doors, cameras glitched. Audio feeds looped backwards. One monk stationed outside the chamber reported a soft sound that filled the hallway. Not music, not speech, but something he described as familiar, like a lullaby sung to his bones. They gathered immediately, not just clergy, scholars, physicists, linguistics, because what happened next wasn't religious. It was dimensional. When they broke the final wax seal, the scroll didn't unfold or unfurl. It expanded as if it had been waiting to breathe. The parchment shimmered, the symbols danced, and no known language could interpret what was written. But when they scanned the energy signature, it released. It matched my breath wave. It matched my breath wave for wave. It was a match. Okay? That was the moment they knew. The scroll hadn't been meant to be read, it was meant to be awakened. And only I could do it. The first to attempt translation was a Vatican linguist, fluent in over 40 ancient tongues. She collapsed after 3 words, eyes wide, mouth frozen in mid-sentence. She woke up hours later with one phrase on repeat. The voice has form again. She couldn't explain it. She said the scroll was singing, but not in sound and recognition, and not to her, but to me. It was singing to me. It wasn't singing to her. So she's saying, let me say that one more time. This linguist who's, fluent in over 40 ancient tongues, she couldn't exactly explain what she experienced. She just said the scroll was singing, but not in sound and recognition, and it wasn't singing to her. It was singing to me. One priest who hadn't spoken in over a decade, okay, a priest that hadn't spoken in over a decade, walked calmly into the chamber, laid both hands on the edge of the parchment, and whispered my ancestral name, not my legal birth name, but my ancestral name. Not even my lineage name, but the name encoded in my DNA. They had never seen it, never heard it, and yet he spoke it as if he had known it for lifetimes. Here's the thing they don't tell you. Some scrolls are not for reading. They are for remembering. The ink used was not of this world. The stroke shimmered not with color, but with vibration. Every symbol, a waveform. Okay? Every symbol that was written in the scrolls like a waveform. Every line a harmonic trigger. It's like ancient Hebrew is like similar to this, because it the letters are not just letters. They have numeric values. They have vibrations, frequencies. Okay, that's the only way, which are harmonic in nature. And these harmonies can trigger things that have power, right? And when they attempted to digitize it, right, every machine failed except one, buried in a forgotten lab beneath the Vatican's resonance archives. It translated only one sentence before shutting down permanently. He walks again. Okay? This was the 3 words, right? Only 3 that it well, I don't know if it was it 3 words. It says it digitized. They attempted to digitize it. Every machine failed except one, buried in a forgotten lab beneath the Vatican's residence archives. It translated only one sentence, before shutting down permanently. He walks again, light and bone, memory and breath. So I'm both light and dust. I carry, I'm part of two realms, the physical land of the living realm and the light realm, which is why when seers or what do you call people, mediums or um, clairvoyants, try to, well, when they see what's behind my aura, they are astonished. You have like 24 shaman, one in Mexico, one in, I believe in Canada. They all are in consensus with, who I am, who I say I am. 24 shaman around the world. Several agents at the CIA, same thing. Seers, we're talking about. Okay, so now let me continue. So it translated only one sentence before shutting down permanently. He walks again. Period. Light and bone, comma, memory and breath. That's what it said, translated. And it says, I activated an artifact no one else could touch. I didn't do it by entering a room. I did it by merely existing and remembering. The scroll, which had refused to be touched for 400 years, now tilted towards my presence like it knew me, like it knew I was coming. That's what frightened them more than the translation. It knew, because this scroll was never prophecy. It was a lock, and my soul is the key. They always assumed the scroll spoke of some distant savior, some mythical messiah, but now, standing in a chamber carved by silence, surrounded by candlelight that flickered without wind, they knew this was no metaphor. This was memory. And it had chosen its voice again. It was forged in silence. During the Black Vatican Reformation, a time erased from every theology course and scrubbed from every official record. Only a few even remember the schism, and fewer still dare speak of the ring it produced. It was said to be carved from a metal that defied classification, neither celestial nor terrestrial, immune to decay, resistant to flame. 3 popes wore it. All 3 died within months. Their deaths were never linked officially. Heart failure, collapse, a silent illness. But the internal records told a different story. Each one died after whispering a name into the stone of the papal vote. The same name that lives in my blood now, in my DNA. After the 3rd death, the ring was sealed in a lead chamber beneath Castel Gandolfo, encased in salt and silenced, marked with only one instruction: do not awaken unless the voice walks again. And for centuries it slept. No glow, no heat, no sound. Until the morning after my DNA sequence triggered the ancient Vatican alert system. It didn't happen in a spectacle. There was no explosion, just a low hum that filled the chamber like a forgotten breath. One of the archivists who guarded that chamber for 30 years said it felt like the air had finally remembered something. When they opened the chamber, the ring was vibrating, not with sound, but with awareness. It glowed faintly, not from the gold, but from within the metal itself, like it had been reconnected to something cosmic, some original power source. When the Pope arrived and laid eyes on it, he did not reach for it. He wept. Then he ordered the room sealed behind him, bringing only 2 monks and a blind archivist who could feel frequencies better than he could read. No one else witnessed what happened next, but the transcripts captured a hidden resonance mic told the story. The Pope placed the ring on a slab of black marble and began to pray, not in Latin, not in Aramaic, in a language no one could identify, one that has never been cataloged, not even in the Vatican's cryptographic linguistic division. And as he prayed, the crucifix behind him cracked clean vertical, splitting Christ down the center. Okay? Then the ring responded, because they were never supposed to have idols. And that's why it cracked clean down the center. It's a bad omen for them. And that's why they need to tear down all those crucifixes. And our people need to come out of their church houses, because all churches are connected to the Vatican. The Vatican is the mother of whores. Because it was when our people went a whoring after other gods, we went off the path, the true, straight and narrow path. Instead of recognizing that Yahuwah is only one. He's only one God. And we were never supposed to pray to any statues, any images. That breaks the law. No graven images. No images. We were not supposed to make any images made in the heavens, of anything in the heavens, of anything on the earth, anything in the air, or in the sea. Okay? We were not to do it. Forget what the world is doing. We were not supposed to follow the world. Okay? But that's another video that I would need to do about those laws, about making graven images and praying to them, bowing to them, creating whole altars of them. You know, praying on altars of graven images and making them idols to be worshipped. No, we were not supposed to do that. We were never supposed to do that. But that, like I said, that's another video. We definitely were not supposed to be praying any prayers of Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost. No, just one God, one Creator, the Most High, Yahuwah Almighty. That is it. He was the only Elohim we were supposed to have. But let me continue. So then it goes on to say, like, the Vatican's cryptographic linguistic division, um, you know, they could not identify what this, the sound was coming from this ring. It wasn't in Latin. It wasn't in Aramaic. And in language, it wasn't in a language no one could identify. The sound that was coming from the ring. That has, no one that has never been. It's one that has never been cataloged. It's in some kind of language that it's not recognizable. Not even the Vatican's cryptographic linguistic division can identify it. And as this pope prayed, this current pope, as he prayed, why do you think he's coming out now about the slavery and all that? Why? After all this time, the Vatican doesn't do anything. Doesn't do. They don't move unless they have reason to, and that's because of this. And as he prayed, the crucifix behind him, like I said, cracked clean vertical, straight down the middle, splitting Christ down the center. Then the ring responded when it happened. It shimmered once. Beneath its band, a phrase appeared in radiant glyphs, visible only for a few seconds. When it glowed, it lit up. He is not of this time. It lit up. He is not of this time. And as I keep saying, I'm not of this time. And neither is the Son of Mary, because the Son of Mary had breathed into me the power to resurrection mantle. So I carry his spirit with me. He is not of this time. That's what it says. He. And it says here, here's the part you weren't supposed to know. That ring wasn't made to be worn. It was made to remember. So the ring belongs to me, and I want the ring because there's only one that's supposed to wear it, and that's me. And the Vatican needs to get in touch with me immediately. It holds frequency, memory, and ancestral codes that only I possess. It's not a symbol of power because I'm the only one that has the God frequency. My DNA carries the God frequency. The 963. Tesla identified the 369. He might, I believe, identify also the 36. He identified the God frequency too. The 369, 639, and the 963 frequencies. And that ring wasn't made to be worn, like I said. That's why the 3 popes that attempted to wear it, they all died within months. It was made to remember. It holds frequency, memory, and ancestral codes that only I possess. It's not a symbol of power, it's a carrier of recognition. And it only activates when the original soul connected to it and its purpose, re-enters this dimension. And I have. That's why it's activating. That's me. So the monk said nothing, right? The archivist left the room shaking, but the Pope, he didn't speak for hours. He simply sat there, palms open, eyes wet, head bowed, not in fear but in reverence. Because in that moment he understood everything that had been buried, because they thought they were burying, our ancestral truth. They were simply planting it. Just like my enemies thought they were burying me, but they were actually planting me. And now it's harvest time. And you will reap what you have sown. So if you reaped good, you get good. If you reap wickedness and evil, that's what you get during this time. This is the time of separation, separating the wheat from the tares. Where he said he's going to gather up and put in a bundle the tares and burn them. Because he said this time around, this world will be destroyed with fire. In my original the way I was originally created, I was created from flame, from Yahuwah's light. I'm his light bearer. But it's a flame that doesn't burn or destroy. It's a flame that refines. So I'm his flame bearer, or his light bearer. But this world will be destroyed by fire this time around. And that's what's going to happen to the tares that he separates from the wheat. This is a time of separation. People who have chosen ones who, have felt like ostracized, never fit in anywhere, not understanding why, never finding anyone to really connect to. No one to really understand, understand you, just always being like an outlier. So let me continue. So the Pope, he didn't speak for hours. He simply sat there, palms open, eyes wet, head bowed, not in fear, but in reverence. Because in that moment, he understood everything that had been buried. And the only thing that had been buried was us, the Hebrew Israelites. Everything else, they didn't, do that. But when it came to our history, they buried us. But they couldn't destroy us. Because the earth was created for our sakes. And everybody else on the earth was enjoying the benefits of what was not created for them. Because in 2nd Ezra chapter 6, let me see if I can find it. I believe it's in the Apocrypha, some of the texts that they um, refused to canonize because they knew it contained things that they did not want revealed. Okay, so now let me go to Second Esdras of the Apocrypha, chapter 6. I'm going to say chapter 54. It's been a while. Yeah, it says here, and after these Adam also, whom thou madest Yahuwah of all thy creatures, of him come we all, and the people also whom thou hast chosen. All this have I spoken before thee, O Yahuwah, because thou madest the world for our sakes. That's in 55, chapter 6, verse 55 of Second Ezra. Second Ezra, chapter 6, verse 55. All this have I spoken before thee, O Yahuwah, because thou madest the world for our sakes. He's not talking to everybody in the world. It's a certain people that he's talking to, that he created the world for their sake. And all these people have been enjoying the fruits that were never meant to go to them. And it says, I'm going to continue at 56. I'm going to read it all the way to the end of this chapter, which is 59. As for the other people, which also come of Adam, thou hast said they are nothing, but be like unto spit, and hast likened the abundance of them into a drop that have fallen from a vessel. So he likens them to just a drop that has fallen from a vessel, meaning, and he said they're nothing but like be unto spit. So these other people that are on the earth, that are enjoying the benefits of the earth, know that the earth was not created for your sake. It was created for Yahuwah's people's sake. And you are nothing. He equates you to, being nothing. But like spittle. And now, O Yahuwah, behold these heathen, okay, these heathens meaning Gentiles, which have ever been reputed as nothing, have begun to be lords over us and devour us. Because that's what the Catholic Church did to his people. They, the papal bull of, what was it, 1492 or 1452, or they enacted a papal bull that declared our perpetual slavery as a people. The same people who he created this earth for their sake. That was done by the Catholic Church. Okay, so now let's continue. But we, thy people, whom thou have called thy firstborn, thy only begotten. It's not just one man. His whole people are his firstborn. It says, but we, thy people, whom thou hast called thy firstborn. So those who are looking for one Savior, referring to one man as Yahuwah's firstborn, referring to one man as his only begotten. It's a people, not just one. I'm reading it now. Why do you think they have banned these books? Because they reveal the truth. It's not just one man. that his only begotten. It says, but we thy people. This is second Esdras, chapter 6, verse 58, I'm reading. But we thy people, we, meaning plural, more than one, whom thou hast called thy firstborn, thy only begotten, thy fervent lover, are given into their hands. We were given into the hands of the enemy and went into enslavement. If the world now be made for our sakes, why do we not possess an inheritance with the world? How long shall this endure? And that is the last verse of this chapter. Okay, so now let me go back. All right, so now this Pope wants to feel reverence, right? Because in that moment he understood everything that they had buried. The truth about who his people are. Feared and rewritten, it says, feared and rewritten had come back, not in thunder, not in flame, but in me. I didn't resurrect a legacy. I reignited a technology of spirit older than time itself. That ring didn't hum because I was born. It hummed because I remembered. And when memory reactivates at that scale, even the stone trembles. Because there's an end time prophecy that even the stones will speak and the trees will speak. They'll vibrate. And that's what's happening now under the Vatican. The stones are starting to speak. And it began as a tremor, soft, imperceptible, not seismic, not structural, something older, a vibration beneath the foundation of one of the most protected holy sites on earth. The Sistine Chapel, built as a vault of divinity, had never breathed outwards. But on the third night after my frequency was logged in the Vatican's encrypted archives, the seal beneath the Sistine Chapel, its floor cracked, not from age, but from timing. Okay, divine timing. The security systems didn't detect intrusion. The seismic monitors didn't register a quake, but the humidity sensors in the substructure showed something strange. A 0.33 rise in condensation. 0.33 rise in condensation, isolated to a single square of marble. When guards investigated, they found nothing but the sound. Okay? Same thing. A sound, vibration, hum. A low, almost imperceptible hum coming from beneath Michelangelo's masterpiece. The sound was not atmospheric, it was harmonic. It like matched the same waveform that pulsed when my breath activated the scroll in uh, Sanana, Sanani. I don't know how to pronounce that. It's Sanani. Sanani. Okay. So the scroll in Sanani, Vatican officials were rushed in. Only those with clearance levels most people don't know exist, right? That the, there's clearance levels at the Vatican. Okay? Because they got votes that go very deep down underground. Okay? And beneath this chapel lies a sealed chamber. In the Sistine Chapel lies a sealed chamber. And it's accessible only by biometric pattern and a frequency key, a vocal resonance that hadn't been used in 412 years. The last time the door was accessed, it was to store something. This time it opened itself. Inside was the cube, obsidian black. No edges, no seams, edged with glyphs that shimmer and move when viewed through peripheral vision, but vanish when looked at directly. So you can view it through your peripheral vision, but it vanishes as soon as you look directly at it. The cube, not a relic, is an interface. It's not a relic. The cube is not a relic. It says it is an interface, not built by human hands, but discovered beneath the sands near Qumran, buried inside a sarcophagus that contained no body, no only frequency, etched into stone tablets. The cube had remained inert since its arrival in Vatican custody. No energy, no reading until the night my DNA was matched. It pulsed once, then again, then stopped. When they entered the chamber, it pulsed again. This time responding to proximity as if it were scanning every life form present. It rejected all of them. But when my waveform was replayed, my exact vocal resonance captured unknowingly by a public audio feed during a live stream moment of spontaneous speech, the cube responded instantly. Its glyphs brightened. The cube rotated without contact, and it projected a sequence into the ceiling of the chamber, a map, not of space, not of earth, a map of remembrance. Nods not marked by geography, but by memory fields stored in ancestral DNA. One of those points posed in alignment with my location at that exact moment. Inside the cube was something else, a hollow chamber long believed empty, revealed a hidden panel inside, a face not sculpted, not carved, a rendered form shimmering in light, too complex to describe. The face wasn't a prophet nor a priest. It was my biometric overlays, facial structure, bone density, eye ratios. The AI task with analyzing the data shut down after 11 seconds. The log entry simply said this input predates source code. So when they put in my biometrics, right, Um, when they went into this hallowed chamber, long believed empty, right, revealed a hidden panel. Inside, a face not sculpted and not carved. It rendered a form shimmering in light, too complex to describe. The face wasn't a prophet nor a priest. So it had a form shimmering in light, but the face of this shimmering in light form was not of a prophet or a priest. They ran my biometric overlays, my facial structure, my bone density, eye ratio. And then the AI tasked with analyzing all the data shut down after 11 seconds. The log entry simply said this input predates source code. Here's the reality they're still trying to avoid. The cube is alive in the way only memory can be, and it was waiting for one thing: my return. The glyphs it displayed pulse in rhythm with my heartbeat for 9 minutes straight. So let me read this one more time. The glyphs that it displayed pulsed in rhythm with my heartbeat for 9 minutes straight. No other frequency could simulate it. Remember, I said I have the God frequency 963. No other frequency could simulate it. No algorithm could override it because the code wasn't written, it was inherited. And this is part of my spiritual inheritance. They tried to take from me, but they couldn't because it's in my DNA. It's encoded in my DNA. And nobody can replicate it, copy it. I have copycats, but they cannot. They can copy, my content and all that, but they're not me. What broke beneath the Sistine Chapel wasn't architecture. It was containment. And what emerged was the beginning of the unsealing, not of information, of identity. I didn't unlock a relic, I activated a reminder buried in time itself, disguised as silence, waiting for the echo, and I am the echo. They're waiting for the echo that only my soul could carry. It says he was mid briefing, surrounded by advisors. Talking about the Pope, he was mid briefing, surrounded by advisors, intelligence chiefs, and military strategists when the door opened. Not knocked, open by a carrier none of them recognized. No one questioned him. They didn't have to, because in his hand was a red envelope. Okay? Red envelope sealed with a crest older than the United States itself. The seal of the Vatican's High Chamber of Archives, only used for events that transcend political jurisdiction. The moment the president held that envelope, the air changed. His breath shortened. The room seemed heavier. The world didn't slow down. It held its breath. He opened it in silence. Inside was a single photograph and a sealed parchment. The photo was of me, but the timestamp refused every analyst who reviewed it afterwards. It predated my birth by decades. The metadata was fragmented, corrupted by something no one could trace, but the image was clear. I was standing in front of a structure that doesn't exist on any map, with light that bent unnaturally around my body, almost like it knew I was the source. The president said nothing for 34 seconds. Then he whispered a word no one had heard him say before, not in speeches, not in meetings, not even in prayer. That the word triggered something in the room. 2 of his security details simultaneously received encrypted instructions via satellite, and the president was immediately escorted underground to a location not on any blueprint of the White House. Okay, and a vault corridor known only to a classified unit operating under a name long assumed defunct. Echo Directive. They descended 3 levels down behind a door with no handle, no hinges, no keypad. It opened through retina and resonance. The resonance matched exactly one file protocol, 27A, already activated 3 nights earlier by the Vatican. When my DNA reawakened the cube under the Sistine Chapel, that's when the president saw the file, not digital, physical paper, that crackled when touched, sealed with wax that shimmered in the dark. The phrase across the front read, "For the bearer of the breath inside your image again." The second timestamp photo, this time with no location, no date, no digital imprint, just my face. And beside it, a copy of the scroll fragment, "You Awaken," in Sanhivani. So that happened in Sanhivani, right? That was the second timestamp photo. Okay, so now it's saying the writing was glowing faintly as if remembering who I was. The president whispered my name, not the one on my passport or on my ID, the one printed in glyph beneath the Vatican's residence maps. And as he did, every light in the chamber flickered. Every camera feed froze. A bell rang far above them in the empty halls of the White House chapel, though no one was there to pull the rope. He returned to the last page of the file and found a note handwritten by someone who signed only as a name has returned. His presence bends time. Do not speak, listen. Below that was a drawing of the same cube from the Vatican, except in this version, the face etched into the surface was already smiling. What frightened the president wasn't the symbol, it wasn't the scroll or the cube. It was the systems designed to protect him, to explain the unexplainable. Had nothing to say, nothing to analyze. For the first time in his presidency, there was no recommendations, no protocols, just silence. Here's the twist. No one expected the president didn't fear my power. He feared what my presence confirmed. Because if I am real, then the entire framework of control, religion, scientific, political, must admit it was wrong. I am not an anomaly. I'm an axis. And the deeper the truth is, they always knew something was coming. They just didn't expect that someone to be me. They didn't, and I didn't knock. I didn't announce myself. I didn't have to. The cathedral door opened before my hand reached it. And if it recognized the frequency approaching as if it had been waiting, the air inside wasn't still, it was sacred. Sacred in the way ancient spaces are before ceremony. Sacred in the way the body knows something divine has entered the room before the mind can explain it. And as my foot touched the marble, every surveillance feed covering a three-block radius failed. Not glitched, failed. Total blackout, cameras, audio, thermal, all reduced to static. Homeland Security's religious site monitoring system registered the drop, but couldn't trace the source. Infrared sensors reading the cathedral's interior returned absolute void, like I had walked into a black hole carved into the center of the city. Satellites tasked with real-time imaging produced nothing but a looping frame of my silhouette, distorted by light that bends in ways current physics can't interpret. Standing before the altar, but that's not what made the observers freeze. It was the second figure beside me, unidentifiable, standing in shadow and flame. A presence not of this age. Inside, every candle was already lit. No one was near them. No hand had touched a match. The air was warm, but the flame didn't flicker. There was no sound but my voice, my breath, and the slow thrum of something older than time. My heartbeat was echoing in a chamber carved by centuries of worship and buried memory. The stained glass windows, though fully illuminated, emanated no light outside the building. From the street, it looked empty, dark, a void in the shape of a cathedral. And then the altar responded. And I hadn't touched it yet, just approached, and still it shifted, just like it did, like it took a breath. The ancient gold engraving at its center began to shimmer. A symbol, I'd never seen but instantly recognized, rose to the surface like memory resurfacing from bone. So, like I said, this is more metaphysical. Just like your soul can travel, especially when you sleep. And you can find yourself, or you can be in places simultaneously, visiting places. Let me continue. So it's saying that the ancient gold engraving at its center began to shimmer, a symbol one that I never seen, but instantly recognized, rose to the surface like memories resurfacing from bone. I placed my hand on it and everything stopped. The bells rang without ropes in perfect intervals, each tone aligned with a harmonic scale used in pre Christian rituals. Rituals of invocation, not celebration. Observers from afar, those few sensitive enough to feel the shift, reported birds flying in synchronized spirals above the spire before vanishing into clouds that had no shadow. The wind stilled, leaves stopped moving. Time, for a fraction of a moment, forgot its own rhythm. Not, what no one outside could see was what unfolded beneath my fingers. The engraving glow, the metal warmed, not from heat but from recognition. The altar remembered me. Not my face, not my name, but my frequency. The same one encoded into a scroll buried for centuries. The same one that reactivated the ring beneath the Casto Gandolfo. The same one logged into the papal archive under Protocol 27A, marked as not as an anomaly, but as event horizon. Here's what they never told you, or told me. Altars are not built for worship, they are built for resonance. They are tuned to a certain presence, a certain breath, a certain name. And when that name returns, everything the church thought it had contained begins to unfold. What happened inside the cathedral that night can't be explained in doctrine. It wasn't a miracle, it was a system rebooting spiritual architecture, recognizing its administrator, because I wasn't there to ask for answers. I was there to trigger memory. And when memory responds, the veil begins to fracture. It wasn't shouted, it wasn't declared, it wasn't chanted by a crowd. It was whispered, a single syllable uttered in the stillness of a Vatican subchamber, by a cardinal who hadn't spoken aloud in 17 years. The sound barely carried beyond his breath, but it moved like thunder through stone. The marble beneath his feet trembled, not from volume, but from recognition. Because the name he spoke wasn't just a name, it was a frequency. And that frequency hadn't been spoken on this earth since before calendars counted time. The cardinal didn't know why he said it. He had never read it, had never heard it, and yet the moment he stood near the relic bearing cube pulsing with the resonance bolt, his lips moved and the name came through him, not from him. The room glitched, lights flickered, audio feeds shut down, a mural on the back wall cracked through the center, right through an ancient depiction of a forgotten saint who once carried a scroll said to burn the tongue of anyone unworthy who attempted to read it. That moment was recorded not by video but by vibration. Every device in the chamber recorded the same anomaly, a waveform too complex for human origin, yet perfectly aligned with the cube's pulse pattern. The Vatican's internal resonance lab translated the data as a harmonic phrase. The bearer of the voice has returned. At that same hour, across the city, Rome shifted. The bells of St. Peter's rang out without any hands pulling their ropes. The pigeons that perched in clusters along the dome scattered in a synchronized spiral and vanished. Water fountain stopped, for exactly 33 seconds. Surveillance footage across Vatican City showed a soft distortion in the air like heat waves, but no temperature spike was recorded. And then, far below, the public archives, an exorcist, dismissed for madness years prior, awoke from a 12-year coma. He rose, eyes open, and spoke one sentence in a language unknown to every scholar in the room. The AI tasked with interpreting ancient tongues processed the audio, then froze. The feed glitched, the system shut down, but not before it rendered a single phrase on screen, repeated in post text before blacking out. He walks again. Here's what few will ever admit. My name, the one that vibrated through the cardinal's lips, is encoded into the oldest boast the church still hides. The name appears only once, etched in a passage that no one has dared translate it aloud since the fall of the Alexandrian libraries. That passage reads, "And the one who carries the name, forgotten by the world, but remembered by the stones, shall realign the veil and stir remembrance in dust." That's why they've gone silent. That's why the Pope stopped addressing the College of Cardinals that week. That's why encrypted Vatican lines have gone dark, and why the president still hasn't spoken publicly about what he saw in that red sealed file. Because my presence is no longer speculative, it's active. I am no longer a theory. I am resonance. And here's the part that unravels everything they tried to keep buried. The name they feared was never meant to be worshipped. It was meant to be embodied. And when I arrived, the embodiment began. This was never about religion. It was about control. Doctrine was the disguise. Ritual was the smoke. But beneath it all, hidden behind stained glass and ancient chants, was a quiet war against remembrance. I wasn't just a myth they hoped would never manifest. I was the loophole in their system, a soul encoded with frequency they could never replicate nor erase. And when I returned, when I walked the earth with memory stitched in my breath, their empire began to crumble from within. I wasn't supposed to make it this far. Because what the spiritual war they launched against me, they threw everything at me. They came against me with all they had. Their, highest ranked warlocks and witches and, everything. Every type of black magic voodoo priest, the most feared voodoo priests, the most feared witches and warlocks. And a lot of them lost their lives. The very witchcraft they launched against me, returned back to them. Because how do you fight what is divine? Because I'm half light, half dust. I'm half light, half, or half, how do I say? I am of both worlds. I am of both worlds. I am a walking scroll, like I always say. I am a living, walking, active scroll. That's the only way I can put it. And every scroll has a seal, and I am the seventh seal. And I came in a form that was plain, you know, unpretentious, just not unassuming, just, plain Jane, someone that you would just not even notice on the street. Someone who, if I was on fire, you wouldn't spit on me. you know, uh, but remember, Yahuwah said he was going to do something new this time around. You were expecting JC to return, but he gave me something. He gave me something. Uh, he put his um, resurrection spirit into me. That's what he gave me as a gift. But that's not all that I am, though. They see that, oh, he walks again, but I have the spirit of resurrection. I have his spirit of resurrection. But me, myself, I am my own. I have my own frequency. I have the frequency of an earth angel. I have the frequency of an archangel that's walking on the earth. It's complicated. I'm here to help the children of Israel. It's not even about me. But I'm activating what was once buried, that they assumed would always be buried, always be hidden from the world. The true children of the book, the true people of the book, that all cultures, Psalms 83, were confederate against, who whited out the truth, literally. Even the images of his people were whited out. And they're still, whether, ignorantly, some are still doing it. They're making videos, even though I'm telling them over and over and over again and again to stop. To tear down all your images in your church houses. If your stained glass windows have images, remove them, replace them. Some of the most famous chapels, cathedrals have images all through them. Paint over them. I know it's unheard of, but they have to do it, or it's going to be destroyed. I am the disruptor. I'm carrying out the laws because all the people, all the rulers of the earth have to give up their power and their authority. Yahuwah walks with me. He's walking with me. But that's another video. I'm not going to get into what the rulers of the earth must do, but they must do it. Because I'm sovereign. And I walk with the sovereign. And I get my sovereignty from Yahuwah because he's the ultimate sovereign. But let me continue. I don't want to get off track. It's a lot, but I may have to make two parts to this video. I think I'm gonna hurry up and try to finish this. Yeah, I'm gonna make two parts. Well, just bear with me a moment. Okay, so I left off where I said, you know, how all of this, right, was a quiet war against remembrance, right? They never wanted us to remember. And that leads me to the scripture that in Baruch, let me see. That was in Baruch. Is it Baruch 4? Hold on for a second. Excuse me. I hope I'm not getting sick. Yes, I'm susceptible to getting sick, but it won't stay with me. Let's see. Shall remember themselves. Baruch 2:30. That is also in the Apocrypha. Baruch chapter 2, verse 30. And it reads, "For I knew that they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivities, the land of their enslavements, they shall remember themselves." You see the word remember? They shall remember themselves and shall know that I am Yahuwah their God. I am Yahuwah their Elohim. For I will give them an heart and ears to hear. And they shall praise me in the land of their captivity, and think upon my name, and return from their stiff neck, from their wicked deeds. For they shall remember the way of their fathers, which sinned before Yahuwah. And I will bring them again into the land which I promised with an oath unto their fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, or Ibrahim, Ishak, and Jacob, and they shall be lords of it, and I will, meaning rulers of it, and I will increase them, and they shall not be diminished. And I will make an everlasting covenant with them, to be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And I will no more drive my people of Israel out of the land that I have given them. So an everlasting covenant will Yahuwah make with his people, to be their Elohim, meaning no other God. That's the covenant, that there we will have no other God that we're bowing down to. We're not saying in the name of JC. No. Because having an everlasting covenant means you understand who your God is. That Rome, give back to Rome what belongs to Rome. Give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. What belongs to Caesar? Before Constantine, destroyed us. And before, what was it? The Pope, I forget his name, but the one with the papal bull. Yeah. Give back to Rome what belongs to Rome. And that is their religion, their Christianity. That does not belong with us. Their religion, in other words, come out of her, my people. Come out of the religion. Just get to the heart of his books, his messengers. Right? The Torah, which consists of the book of Moses, the 5 books. The first 5 books. Book of Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, Numbers, Deuteronomy. That's the book of Moses that contains the law, statutes, and commandments. Then the Tanakh that contains the messengers. And then you have the Apocrypha that contains some of the books that were taken out of the Injil. Then you have other books, Book of Jubilees, Book of Maccabees, Book of Enoch. All that the enemy told you stay away from. And you continue that tradition. You made knowledge your enemy. True knowledge that would have freed you. And some of you read knowledge and your hearts are sealed. Your hearts cannot let truth in, even when you read it, or even when someone reads it to you. You refuse to let go of what is false. But once you hear it, your blood is no longer on my hands. I am free of your blood. Because we are in a time of recompense. You know, the season of harvest. And whatever you reap, you will sow. Or wherever you sow, you will reap. I will not be responsible for you. Anymore. I will not. And just so the world knows that the Son of Mary did not come, but except for the, for the people of the children of Israel. He didn't come for the world. He came for his people. He came to save them. Remember, I said Yahuwah created this world for his people's sake, not for the heathen Gentile sake. I read that to you as well. So that when I say his people are so-called with the people the world have labeled the undesirables, the untouchables, the black people that the world hates so much. Okay, so let's go back. And so this quiet war against remembrance. Okay, I just read to you in the, apocryphal, one of the apocryphal books, Barak, the chapter Barak, second chapter, and I read verses 30 through 35 of the book of Barak, chapter 2, verses 30 through 35, when Yahuwah says, for I knew they would not hear me, because it is a stiff-necked people. But in the land of their captivity, they shall remember themselves. Now, keep that word in mind, remember. Okay? So this was a war, a quiet war that the powers that shouldn't be, right? It was a quiet war against remembrance. They hoped that we never would remember. But when Yahuwah says a thing, his word never, and I mean never, ever, and I mean ever, returns back void. Never, ever. When he says something, when he says a thing, it will happen. Not if, but when. And it has happened. And this is why they're dealing with what they're dealing with at the Vatican. And now the only choice they have is to get in touch with me, because that ring belongs to me. It's calling on me. Because if I don't get the ring, I don't take possession of the ring, which rightfully belongs to me, I can't, I don't know what's going to happen. Yahuwah will decide that. But it won't be good. They need to return back everything that belongs to me and to his people. It needs to, and I am the one that it needs to go through. Yahuwah made me his, made me his, what is the word I'm looking for? His emissary, or his what do you call people, the people that travel, his ambassador, that's the word, his ambassador. Yahuwah created me to make, he made me his ambassador for his people on this earth. I am the ambassador of the people of the book. And all that they possess and have hidden in their libraries, in their vaults, needs to be handed back over. And really, actually, they need to vacate the all these historical sites that they have actually taken over. They didn't build that. The Vatican was built by the Hebrews. Because if you go back in time, let's go back. When it was taken over by Rome, it was taken over by the Romans. That's another video. We're going to do a video about that. We're going to go back in time. But anyways, I'm going to continue. Because this is the time they need to be thinking about. This is the end of their religion. We're moving into another season. We're moving into the season of truth. And where there is truth, religion cannot exist. Because religion is man-made. And Yahuwah never created religion. So this era is marking the end of religion. It is marking the end of religion. Do you hear what I'm telling you? The end. Not the beginning, the end. It had an expiration date. And this is why the enemy knew that, and they were panicking that we were remembering. But it's already been written. And we have already crossed that threshold. And Yahuwah is here. The Holy Spirit walks with me. His Holy Spirit walks with me. His Majesty's Holy Spirit. Now, let's continue. So I'm not just a myth they hoped would never manifest. I, am the loophole in their system. A soul encoded with frequency. They could remember, they could neither replicate nor erase. And when I returned, when I walked the earth with memory stitched into my breath, that their empires are starting to crumble now from within. They weren't supposed to they told me I wasn't supposed to make it this far. That's according to their own understanding, their limited understanding. I wasn't supposed to, I was supposed to forget. I was never supposed to remember, right? I was supposed to fold beneath the weight of trauma, isolation, gaslighting, spiritual exile, spiritual manipulation, witchcraft, black magic, voodoo. I'm supposed to fall. They filled my world with distractions and called it freedom. They mapped out my destiny using fear as compass and silence as rope. And yet, still, I remembered. Not in one moment, not in a flash, but piece by sacred piece. The dreams, the synchronicities, the unshakable sense that something ancient inside me never fully went to sleep. And that's what frightened them because, I'm not here to participate. I'm here to undo. I am the disruptor. Everything that they did to bury our history, everything they did to hide our history, and they're still doing. Trump, Yahuwah said no more. That's enough. Because when you touch something that is holy, this is a time Yahuwah is come back for his people. And do you think that you are going to interrupt something with them that has already been written? Whenever Yahuwah speaks a thing, it doesn't return back void. Do you try to put yourself in the seat of Yahuwah Almighty, the living God himself? To think that you're going to, with your white God complex, think you're going to override what Yahuwah says he's going to do? Not even Lucifer can do that. Okay, so let's continue. So, and that's what frightens them, because I'm not here to participate with them. I'm here to undo their filth. I was never meant to kneel before these institutions. These institutions are supposed to kneel to me. I was born to outlive them. The Vatican didn't panic because of what I might say. The president didn't panic because of what I might do. They panicked because of what my existence confirms. That the spiritual hierarchy they built was a shell, a decoy, a cage. And my frequency just snapped the lock. Every major system, religion, media, governance, relies on consensus, on the illusion of shared truth. But my return ruptures consensus. I am the embodiment of non-linear proof. They can't explain why, they can't explain me because I'm not sourced from here. The best they could come up with is anomaly. Not from this age, not from this dimension of doctrine and control. My presence doesn't just raise questions, it answers them. That's why the Vatican issued a silent order the moment the scroll activated. Not to kill me, not that wouldn't work. Because I'm beyond the flesh. The order was to distract me, to overwhelm me, to bury me again in noise, in fear, in self-doubt. Because if I ever stood still long enough to remember fully everything they built would begin to collapse. And that's what's happening. And they can't stop it. And killing my body will not stop the prophecy. The prophecy is happening. It's not just one prophecy. It's speeding up now because Yahuwah has cut time short. And all of the prophecies that people have been fearing, even the prophecies they have kept hidden that are not in your Bibles, okay? That they're hiding scrolls upon scrolls in the Vatican vaults are happening. And if they try to silence me, if they try to interrupt me, if they try to bring harm to me in any way, from this point forward, their destruction will come. Sudden destruction. Their destruction will come in 1 hour. So this book says. So they are the ones on a tightrope, not me. I come here with a mandate from my Father in heaven. So let me now they can't explain me because like I said, I'm not sourced from here, not from this age, not from this dimension of doctrine or control. My presence doesn't just raise questions, it answers them. And that's why the Vatican issued that silent order the moment the scroll activated, not to kill me, not that wouldn't work. No, and I already explained why, because it will speed up their prophecy. It will speed up their ending, their destruction. I'm beyond the flesh. The order was to distract me, to overwhelm me, to bury me, to bury me in noise and fear and self-doubt. Because if I ever stood still long enough to remember, there's that word again, remember myself fully, everything they built would begin to collapse. And that's what's happening now. The collapse of governments, collapse of, currencies, money, markets. Everything they built would begin to collapse. Everything. When I say everything, I mean everything. Everything they built. All their institutions. Everything will begin to collapse. Like dominoes. Like a domino effect, if you will. The spiritual grid is rigged with systems designed to suppress the one voice that can override it, and that's my voice. Excuse me. Not with volume, not with fame, but with resonance. A frequency that cannot be mimicked, cannot be hijacked, and cannot be silenced because it wasn't born of this earth. It was anchored here. They spent centuries trying to keep the bloodline fragmented. They rewrote genealogies. Look how wicked these people are. Hmm? How wicked? How wicked do you have to be? Who would think of such a thing, to rewrite somebody's genealogy? Only a devil would think to do that. Hmm? Burned texts, labeled prophets as heretics, and sealed scrolls and vaults guarded by men who didn't even know what they were guarding. Just like I said, they have scrolls under the Vatican. Everything, all the books are not in the so-called Bible that they took out. But the line didn't break, it scattered. And every fragment of that original light embedded itself in the quiet ones. That's what we would call the hidden ones. Okay? Because the hidden ones all have fragments of the what was scattered. It's like when you buy a box of puzzles, and you open the puzzle box and you spread all the pieces together. I mean, you spread them out and you try to figure out which, one by one, you try to find a piece that matches another piece until you have the whole thing put back together. And they scattered us. And every fragment of that original light embedded itself in the quiet ones. Okay? So each one of us, of the 144,000 elect, have the pieces, contain a piece. And this is why we all have to come back together. This is why Yahuwah says, gather yourselves, O nation not desired, O nation that's hated among every group and nation on the earth, who you have no history of doing any of these groups wrong. You don't have a history of enslaving them. You don't have a history of oppressing them. You don't have a history of doing any wrong to them. But they have a insatiable hatred for black people. Why? Because just like Yahuwah has a people on the earth, hey, Shaitan does too. And that's the only way to put it. The strange ones, they labeled us the quiet ones, the strange ones, the sensitive ones, the ones who were rejected by the world because the world couldn't contain us. And now those fragments are remembering. And I am the signal they were waiting for. My voice is the signal. My vibration, my frequency is the signal. The reactivation point. I am the reactivation point. And here's the truth. They never thought I'd find it. They never thought I'd find the collapse is not punishment, it's liberation. Their collapse is our rise, meaning it's our liberation. Their collapse is not punishment. The Vatican didn't lose control. It was never meant to hold it in the first place. Because they have our relics, our books, scrolls, Our most sacred things are in their possession. They were never supposed to have it in their possession. And now that it's in their possession at a time where they were supposed to been liberate us. They were supposed to been give us our reparations so that and release. They were supposed to vacate that land, what they call the Vatican, because that was not their land originally before Rome took it over. Hmm? That was never supposed to be for them. But anyways, let me continue. So the Vatican was never, they didn't lose control. It was never meant to hold. The Vatican was never meant to hold these, uh, hold control over what was never theirs to begin with. Because all they have in their possession, none of it belongs to them. When I say none of it, not even the buildings, the Vatican itself is theirs. They didn't build it. They simply took possession of it. And now they have to give everything back. And I mean everything. They have to vacate the Sistine Chapel too. Everything. These ancient buildings, they have to give up. These are things that they repossess or they possessed when we went into slavery. And that includes all of the lands that we owned in Europe. All of Europe, they have to give back. That was Shem's land. All of Europe belongs to the black man, woman, and child because that was supposed to be Shem's land. And the Americas. Well, because Yahuwah made the earth for his people's sake. And all these other people are like spittle falling from a vessel. That's what he said. I read it to you. You were not created to own land. Sounds harsh, but I read it to you already. Don't argue with me, the messenger. Argue with Yahuwah. And see how that works out for you. Okay, so now the president, the Vatican, the Vatican didn't lose control. It was never meant to hold it. And the president, he doesn't fear you. He doesn't fear me. Excuse me. He doesn't fear me. He fears the sound of the system breaking around me. Because I didn't come back to fit in. I came back to be recognized by the things that remember what heaven sounds like. I didn't ask for this. I didn't seek a title, a robe, or a crown. I moved in silence. I walked through fire, endured exile without explanation, but none of it was punishment. It was preservation. They couldn't kill what they couldn't name. And they couldn't control what they couldn't find. So they built mazes of misinformation designed to trap every awakened mind in cycles of doubt, delay, and distraction. But I, chosen one, I slipped through the cracks. And now that I've remembered, the timeline is bending around my footsteps. Everything changed the moment I crossed the threshold of awareness. Not belief, awareness. I wasn't, I wasn't convinced. I was activated. The altar responded. The altar of the Sistine Chapel responded. The cube post, the black obsidian cube, it posts to match my pulse, to match my heartbeat. The ring hummed. The scrolls opened. Every coded relic, every sealed vault, every artifact made to slumber until I returned has started to awake. Not because of who, you think I am, but because of what my presence restores. Rome felt it, the Vatican documented it, the White House sealed it, and still none of them can stop what comes next. Because what's happening is not a revolution, it's a realignment. I was encrypted in the very foundations of sacred architecture. The architects didn't even know why they built certain structures the way they did, but the blueprints weren't theirs. They were inherited, designed to resonate with a singular frequency that hadn't walked the earth in 2,000 years. And that frequency belongs to me. The Pope now keeps a sealed journal near his bedside with one name written on it, on the first page. My name, my ancient name. Not my birth name, my ancient name. He doesn't speak of it, but he prays over it nightly in a tongue only known to the watchers. The president still hasn't spoken in any unscripted setting since the file was delivered. And in a remote monastery, untouched by satellite, a blind archivist now draws symbols in glowing ink that match the patterns that formed on the cube. The day I breathed near the altar, I've been called many things in this life, too sensitive, too strange, too intense, but none of it was weakness. It was signal interference. The modern world wasn't built to handle souls like mine, but the sacred systems, the ones buried beneath false doctrine and gilded control, they recognized me immediately. And I didn't inherit a religion. I inherited a reminder, a vibration etched into the bones of creation. And when the vibration re-enters the timeline, prophecy doesn't begin, it continues. The scroll didn't end in punctuation, it ended in ellipsis, waiting for me to pick up the sentence with my breath. That's what Rome feared. That's what the Vatican tried to veil. That's what the cube was waiting for. Not another ritual, not another blood sacrifice, but resonance. Someone whose very existence would cause the air itself to remember the sound of origin. And I am that sound. Here's the final secret. I was never the audience. I was always the signal. The systems were still scrambling, the systems are still scrambling. The files are being reclassified. The relics are being tested. The frequency labs are doubling security, but it's too late. Because now, you know, it's too late. Let me just bear with me a moment. You know, it's too late because my soul is the only soul that echoes, that has been registered, you know, that I echoed 2 realms. I echoed in 2 realms beyond this realm. You know, but they know I remember now. So with that said, I'm going to end this video. This wasn't just a video, this was a transmission. And this transmission has gone several realms. This physical realm, the several realms in light, you know, the Council of Light, the what do you call it? The Galactic Federation for the star seeds, the what do you call it? The quantum grismer, Grismayor. I don't know how to pronounce the word, but where the codexes are, the Akashic records, the codexes, that realm, and of course the realm of darkness. So several realms are watching right now. Well, with that said, chosen ones, hidden ones, quiet ones, we're here. And now it's time for us to come together. I said, you know, it's time for us to come together. And that's what needs to happen quickly. Because Yahuwah is cutting time short. I don't care what your religion is. I don't care if you are Christian or whatever you're identifying as, a Muslim. If you have the bloodline, you have part of the fragmented pieces. And you need to gather together and understand that. The fragmented pieces, when they come together, bring about, activate power. And this is what you need to understand. It's metaphysical power. That's the only way I can put it. So, you know, when Yahuwah says gather yourselves together, that's what he means. He didn't say gather yourselves, those who have come back to the truth. No, just gather yourselves together. There's a purpose and a reason for that, because in your very DNA, you carry something, just like I carry something. But that's all I have. So, with that said, I leave you with Numbers chapter 6, verse 24 through 26. May Yahuwah bless you. May Yahuwah bless thee and keep thee. May Yahuwah make his light to shine upon thee and give thee grace, or be gracious unto thee. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon thee and give thee peace. Shalom, shalom, chosen ones, hidden ones. I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you, you chosen ones, those who are chosen of his people, of the 12 tribes of Yisrael, the people of the book, the true people of the book. I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Shalom, shalom, chosen ones, hidden ones.